Hey guys, welcome back to the Greenback Voyage podcast. I'm your host, Shrevin,
And I'm your co host, Joel.
and this week is February week 4, and we will be discussing some situations that are rising around America. But we start off with the coronavirus updates. So, US hospitalizations continue to decline, and new cases fell to levels seen in late October, I believe. Isn't that right, Joel?
Yeah, we cases are definitely dropping as we're getting out more vaccinations out.
Yeah, and talking about those vaccinations, I think the Pfizer vaccine is seeming to be more potent than it has before. I think researchers and scientists have said the first shot itself is powerful on its own, and you don't really need that booster shot, especially with the new variants that we're seeing in the UK and South Africa.
Right. Yeah, they're basically saying that just hold on administering the second dose because the first shot itself is very strong on its own. So that's good news for Pfizer.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it might be a ploy just because the supply might be down somewhere, but I mean we never know with these. What we do know, however, is I think Fauci came on uh, CNBC or something and said that the CDC is now projecting that the vaccine will be available for the general public around May or June, which is about a month and a half uh, pushed back from where they originally thought it would be available. So yeah, for us too, with internships coming up and all sorts of summer activities, might be a bit difficult to do some of those, but I guess we'll see when the time comes. I mean, I already pre-registered for it, so yeah, hopefully I can be one of the first ones there.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully, students benefit from vaccinations this summer, so we can open up on-campus classes for fall semester. That would be great.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think Biden's plan of opening schools, businesses, everything within his first 100 days is going to happen. But
That's
at
not gonna happen.
least,
He wants to like
yeah,
open up schools 5 days a week, pretty like within the first 500 days. It's I don't know, it's a bit of wishful thinking. I think we're a bit. It's gonna be too early if he does that. We need to wait a bit more.
yeah, and he has his hands full right now with the Texas situation.
Right? They just sent federal help there. Um,
hmm
yeah, it's getting
I mean, they
crazy in
basically
Texas.
yeah, they kind of shot themselves in the foot because, I mean, they didn't want the infrastructure that the federal government has in most of the other states, and well, it's come back to bite them in the ass.
Yeah, it's just really sad. I mean, I think people are suffering for safe drinking water. I mean, there's recent news report said 14 million people are without safe drinking water, and also a lot of stores closed, so people can't go in and buy bottled water. So yeah,
hmm
it's a very very tough situation, and they don't have electricity to boil water. So yeah, it's crazy. Um,
Yeah, and speaking of the blackouts and all, apparently what had to happen is they had to forcibly like black out part of the cities within Houston, Austin, and San Antonio because the signs that they were seeing some major red flags that if they didn't shut them down then, the power would have been so great that it would have caused blackouts for months, which would have not been good.
Yeah, I
But
think they were like seconds, or like not seconds, but very very close to allowing that to happen. Um, so
yeah, yeah, and
and
still
far.
like 2.8 million are without power. You
Mhm.
know, companies and farmers are gonna lose a huge amount of revenue from this.
Yeah, yes. I mean, agriculture is getting very very hurt by this. They're projected to lose millions of dollars due to this right now. Um,
hmm
and this is not the end of it. Sadly, there's the storm is actually going to move towards the east coast, so some of the states nearby Texas, maybe Oklahoma, even here Virginia could be affected by those icy conditions.
That's definitely true. Although I think they might be in better shape just because Oklahoma, in especially in April May, they do get a lot of tornadoes and other various severe weather conditions. So I think they might be okay on that front.
Um,
Yeah,
as
but
far, but because of this event, there's this huge spike in demand for oil. We
mhm,
saw crude oil futures jump almost 5%, and oil, especially I think last week you said the SPDR ETF XLE that also had a great week this week. So
yeah,
oil's having a bit of a rally right now.
yeah, natural gas was really the winner out of this. You got companies like Jerry Jones, the idiotic CEO of the Cowboys, and his corporation Comstock Resources. They jumped heavily off this, and billionaires within the oil and gas EP industry just seem to benefit a lot out of this.
Right.
Um,
I it's kind of like similar to how when hurricanes like Sandy hit these states, a lot of these stocks like Lowe's and Home Depot went up because you need supplies to build back those houses. People go and buy boards to board up their houses. So same thing happening here. There's a huge demand in oil and natural gas now, and all the stocks and futures are going up.
yeah, and I guess with the recent heavy migration to Texas, it does beg the question whether Texas um, is really, the move right now,
Yeah,
because the infrastructure itself is needed for so many people to be there, which is what California has created. But yeah, with Texas, I mean, I think people just took that kind of for granted,
people didn't
and
expect this to
even
happen.
yeah, even with the economy just booming there, I mean, if you don't have the basic foundations, it's tough. Yeah,
Well,
but I guess going off on that, we have the GameStop hearing this past week as well. Yeah, so I guess the lawmakers, they took some weird positions, didn't they, on this issue?
some of the lawmakers or representatives of the House of what was it, Committee of Financial Regulation or something like that. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, the Citadel CEO seemed to be reading off a transcript or he was on or some teleprompter. His eyes were just looking up and down, so I thought that was funny. But some lawmakers were grilling the Citadel CEOs and Robinhood, asking really good questions. And I think some lawmakers were completely clueless. And I think you added something here, some question that
Yeah,
one of the
yeah. One lawmaker addressed the question of whether users of Robinhood can buy Robinhood stock,
yeah,
and the response given, fairly obvious, was that Robinhood is a private company. You can't really buy it.
right,
So yeah, I don't know. Every time these types of hearings come up, there's always lawmakers who are they're just useless in these hearings. There's no reason for them to be there, and they're not up to the modern times that we're living in. Each day presents some new technology, something new within each industry that everyone within that industry knows, but not really the lawmakers themselves. And even with the countless advisors that they have, uh, asking them to come up with these questions, yet, I mean, should lawmakers just be allowed to conduct these hearings anymore? Like, it's just,
right. Well, there's no other. I mean, it's at times you can have like one in many that are like incompetent or seem incompetent, but as far as there's no other governing body to have these committees, right? So it has to
mhm.
be a House committee or a Senate committee that does this. um, but in terms of what happened in the hearing, I think the guy who started all this on Wall Street Bets was
Deep fucking value.
right. um, he actually doubled on his position. So he was incredibly bullish on the stock, saying that GameStop is going to turn around. The gaming industry is a booming industry. It's going to go I think he said it was like a $200 billion market cap industry, and it's going to grow more. And he was just stating his reasons why he's more long than ever on the stock, and he actually doubled. I don't know if you guys saw the Reddit post last night, but he posted his his YOLO update, and it showed that he actually bought more GameStop stock, and that just reading the comments on Wall Street Bets, everyone was riled up about it. So I don't know if it's gonna have another short squeeze effect. Those hedge funds are. I don't know if that same event's gonna happen or not, but it's very interesting to see.
I mean, if I went from 48K investment to 48 million, I would have probably gotten out somewhere around 25 million to 30 million.
Right. Man, that would have crashed the stock at that point. Holders like him holding it through. If he were to sell it, that would have crashed the stock all the way down.
It was going to crash regardless. So.
Right, but one of the reasons why it's still at the $50 range is because of guys like him. A few 100 or 1,000 more guys who bought up GameStop and participated in the short squeeze are still holding on to the stock. Right, if they all once start to sell their call options and their shares, the stock's going to crash down to maybe $25 or $20, or even back down to $10, $5 range. So the fact that these guys are still holding the stock is kind of incredible, and they're incredibly bullish on it. I mean, the current valuation at $50 share price, what is that? What, 10 billion? What's the valuation?
I don't think I think it's a bit less than that. But I don't know. I think it's idiotic. I mean, you had all those gains. You could have at least sold some off and reaped the benefits of those. But, like a couple million here and there, pay off the taxes. Like, you're still left with a couple million. Like, that's good enough for a couple years.
I guess their point is to, prove that retail investors can have a big impact on the market. So I guess they're still holding on.
Yeah, and another asset that's been on an insane run still is Bitcoin. They're a top 50K on Tuesday, and I think they're over $1 trillion in market cap. They've surpassed that this week.
Yeah,
it seems everyone's suddenly bullish on them.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason why it's still continuing to go up is back 2 years ago, I think it was 2017 or 18, Bitcoin had this huge rally to almost $20,000, right? But no big institution was buying into Bitcoin. No big whales like Elon Musk and Tesla, they weren't buying into Bitcoin. So it just popped and went back down. But now, when it rallied up all the way to $35,000-$40,000, you see ARK Invest is buying, Tesla is buying. Even I was reading a Motley Fool article, and if you go down to the subheading, they say disclaimer: Motley Fool is buying has bought into Bitcoin. So it seems like everyone at this point is kind of understanding that cryptocurrency is the future, blockchain technology is the future. And they're buying into Bitcoin. That's why the price is holding up. It'll probably continue to go up even more.
No doubt. I mean, with institutions, I am bullish on them now. It is hard for me to understand whether it could be another way to value goods and all that sort of stuff. Maybe on the black market, sure, but usually when people say it's like a safe haven asset, that's where I'm kind of disagreeing with them. Because usually if it's a safe haven asset, it should be going down in times of where market is going up, and then, do the opposite, which is what gold is still doing, to be fair. So, yeah, that's where I kind of disagree with them, but I can see where the other side is kind of like, no, this is a completely new market. In terms of, companies are going to be using this as a value of money, basically, for their goods and services. I think Visa announced it recently or something like that. And with Goldman Sachs' new trading feature. I forgot the name of that now. But they also, you can also buy, I think, Bitcoin ETFs off there as well, within the Canada market. So yeah, I mean,
Right.
Bitcoin
I've
looks
heard
to
that.
be a great buy.
Yeah. And also, if you go back, talk about Tesla buying into Bitcoin, it's kind of a very smart move because you have all these short sellers trying to short Tesla, right? And now they're
Hmm.
not just shorting Tesla's fundamentals; they're also going to be shorting their Bitcoin position. So it's kind of Bitcoin has kind of become a hedge for Tesla. So that I think that was a very smart move on Tesla's management. Because if Bitcoin is so a lot of people like Shaman Palihapitiya and like Kathy Wood from ARK, they're all saying that Bitcoin is going to go to 200k, 250k, higher than that, and that's going to what fivefold, fourfold Tesla's position. So
Hmm.
that would be even if Tesla share price if it fundamentally falls, their holding in Bitcoin will grow in their so that would kind of balance out their market cap. So this I think it's a brilliant move by Elon Musk and the management of Tesla.
Yeah, no doubt. I completely agree with that. I mean, yeah, I think they put what 1.5 billion in, so fivefold, and yeah, that's wow. Could you imagine just like $5 to $6 billion of assets just off of Bitcoin?
Um,
Yeah,
we'll have to see if like more big other companies start to buy Bitcoin into their balance sheet. So
yeah. Amazon might be next. Wouldn't be surprised if they started to get into it as a use of payment methods. If they do that, man, that that would be a gold mine for Bitcoin investors.
yeah, that would be great.
Yeah. And speaking of, all those big tech firms, I think that you mentioned a new Maryland tax
Right. So
that might be
Amazon,
coming into play.
yeah, Amazon, Google, importantly Facebook and Google, basically they're challenging this new Maryland tax, which is going to what the tax is going to do is they're going to tax the digital advertising revenue, um, and basically what these guys are arguing is that that's unconstitutional and it violates a federal moratorium on internet taxes. So that's going on right now with those FANG companies.
So is it like a court case right now, or is that what's kind of going on?
Yeah, it's kind of a legal battle between them and I think Maryland, state of Maryland. Um, so we'll have to see how that ends up. If the state wins, they're going to start taxing all these companies on their digital advertising revenue, and that's one of the main revenue sources for Google, Facebook. So that could hurt some of their quarterly earnings reports, some of the growth. So we'll have to see how that goes. You know, so because in my
Yeah,
portfolio,
that.
Facebook's one of the highest weights, so I'm kind of focused
Hmm.
on how that would go. And also speaking of Facebook, with the news in Australia, that's kind of worrying. Um, I think Facebook is now going to prevent users from posting any type of news. So you can't post like a news headline from CNN or Fox or MSNBC or any of the outlets in Australia. So that's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I mean, is it just Australian news they're trying to block, or is it just global news?
That's any news. So it'll be
Oh,
RT,
okay.
RT, BBC, any Reuters, uh, Al Jazeera, any news will be blocked from posting on their platform.
Wow. So all the posts are just going to be engagements, I guess.
Yes.
Jeez. Yeah.
See,
I
the
mean.
thing about this is it is very, very likely that Facebook can do this in other countries. If they're doing it in Australia, they would it's very easy for them to start doing it in other countries. India could be next. New Zealand, any country could be next if they're starting with this in Australia.
I mean, I think the thing is with Facebook, I mean, they make money off of how many people click on the ads or just view the ads. And, with the amount of news that's on Facebook. I mean, you just scroll through Facebook, and it is really just news,
Right.
global news
This is
everywhere. So
it's because the Australian government basically wants Facebook to pay for the content, right? The Australian government wants kind of like a tax or like a small fee for the content that's being advertised, and Facebook is basically saying, no, we're not going to pay you this. So that's why they've decided to remove all this from their platform. In the sense that it could happen in other countries if other governments do want this too, like what the Australian government did. They would do the same thing in that country. So the things to learn from this is Facebook is incredibly powerful to go against a foreign government like this. So you can see how powerful these FANG companies are. So it's crazy.
And Google was threatening. Google was threatening as well before they kind of backed off. I think they realized that they'd probably lose a lot of users just based on. I think Australia is one of the top 10 countries to use Google, and Facebook isn't really up there. So yeah, I think Google mentioned somewhere, they sent out a press release saying they're going to pay Wall Street Journal specifically, other news outlets for their content. So
going back to oil now, Saudi Arabia is what they're doing is trying to cut some oil production. Prices are going to go up. So what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, all positive news for the energy industry right now. How long it will last, I don't know. And when Biden will announce his renewable energy plans, I don't know. But right now, oil prices they seem to be going back to pre-pandemic levels. They'll probably hit $70, $80 by the time the demand starts to grow in April, March.
So it's kind of one of the main last lagging sectors to completely recover from COVID.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I definitely think that the energy industry as a whole will grow throughout this year. Try and look at, if you are thinking about buying into the energy sector, I wouldn't look at the energy sector as a whole, especially with the amount of controversy that's coming out of them. One stock could just bring down the entire sector. Instead, I'd look at specific companies that have pretty good assets, have an equal footing on both natural gas and oil. Maybe a midstream company might be best here because they can really play the margins pretty well.
Yeah, and speaking of that, but we got our 13F filings, right? And Warren Buffett with his Berkshire Hathaway, the main two companies that he added were Chevron and Verizon. Interesting, added Chevron, so that also helped oil stocks go up a little bit more.
Yeah, I understand why you might have gotten Verizon, because Verizon is sort of a dividend play. They mainly just buy back shares and just grow their dividends out, which is what he's looking for. But Chevron is interesting. I really think he thinks that that company specifically is going to grow.
Right. He's looking at a rebound of oil stocks right now.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, it is kind of tough for Buffett. One of his more famous quotes is, "Don't play in anything that you're not familiar with." So it's not like he can really play the renewable sectors or the Bitcoin sector, the tech sectors. I mean, he only has Apple, right? Out of all the techs.
Yeah, and he also cut down on that position. So
yeah. So yeah, he's playing to his strengths, and it seems to be working. So maybe Chevron is the move in the future.
Yeah, I've looked at his holdings. I think it was all very dividend heavy. It used to be Apple at the top. I think it still is, but the stake has gone down very, very low. And he's moved towards investing in undervalued companies and value-rich companies. So his portfolio looks more like a dividend-heavy portfolio now.
Yeah, definitely.
There's no growth. There's not a lot of growth stocks in it, and that's
I think what
Buffett does.
Yeah, his main plan, Warren Buffett's right now, is to buy companies that offer good dividends and ones that buy back shares. Like Bank of America, one that he's held for a long time. That's its main thing right now. It buybacks a ton of shares, and it raises its dividend. Like
he
and he can
sold
kind
out
of for
of like
uh,
Wells Fargo and things like that.
yeah. Yeah, because I don't think he thought there would be enough cash for them to continue his plan. Um, but yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I think right now it's more of a I've done my part. I'll just let my money grow while I just drink Coca-Cola every day.
Well, any stocks? I think Palantir was a very interesting stock last week.
Yeah,
Earnings.
Palantir.
Yeah, it had its earnings and then it dropped significantly, over double-digit drop, and then we saw a huge accumulation in institutional buying. ARK bought in, like, I think at the day they bought a few million shares, and then
Yeah,
the
9
next
million
day,
last week.
right, and the next day they just doubled their entire position. Basically, they added 5 million shares into the ARK Innovation Fund, which is their flagship fund. They usually were buying in their ARK Internet Fund, so that's great news for Palantir, and that's why it shot up on Friday, because you have this person with a proven track record of being right on a lot of stocks, buying huge into Palantir. So that's great news for Palantir holders, and we'll see how that goes next week.
Maybe that's a good debate for another time, talking about ARK itself, because I mean, no one hedge fund organization or that can sustain this growth that they've had. It'll be very interesting to see when the money flow starts to go out a bit and how ARK kind of reacts to that.
Yeah, they're constantly changing their holdings. So if you look at their ETFs, it's a very, very active ETF. So we'll see how it's fun. I mean, they're doing very well. I mean, this year itself, they're up a lot. So
Oh yeah,
yeah, we'll see how that goes.
I mean, yeah, I'm an investor in ARK, and I'm pretty sure I'm up. What was it, 35-40% in a month and a half, 2 months like that, which I didn't even expect, and I bought it close to the high as well. So yeah, that's insane. But other stocks that I'm looking at, I have Beyond Meat on my radar. So they recently filled the gap from when they jumped from, I think, 150 to 220 within one day. So they're back around that 160 range. I'm a huge fan of VWAP, and the VWAP from the month to date is around that 160-ish range. So if it bounces off of that level, I'd be very interested in buying Beyond Meat. Preferably the shares more than the options, because the options tend to go wild on them. DraftKings is another one, with their recent run in the Super Bowl days, and then they've slightly gone down a bit and popped up. It kind of looks like a bull flag on a technical chart. So if that keeps on rising and passes all-time highs, I mean, that stock can just keep running forever right now. Walmart as well. I think you mentioned Walmart.
Right. The thing about Walmart is they announced that they're going to increase the wage for nearly 500,000 workers. And based on that news, Walmart stock dropped 6.5% and it's trading around the higher 130 range. It's actually been on a downhill for the past few months. And it could be a great buying opportunity. I think the stock is, personally, I think it's undervalued with a lot of services that's coming out, with a lot of what they're doing in terms of healthcare. And also Walmart Plus, which is their subscription service. It's similar to Costco. So I think Walmart is a great buy at these prices.
Yeah, I mean, I had a chance to look at it, and it's really right on that support trend line. So yeah, that does really look like a good buy. Two more that I had. Unity is one of them. Unity is one that I've had for a while. I've had it since IPO. I sold some a while back just to raise some cash so I could buy into STPK. But right now, they recently got down to the VWAP level from the IPO. So it looks, I don't know, it's kind of similar to Palantir, in which Palantir also came down to the VWAP IPO and then bounced right off. Unity hasn't had that same kind of thing, but they've been on the downtrend since December, and they look to be another stock that's on the rise. And then lastly, I've been looking into Lockheed Martin recently, and I think they're really undervalued right now. Their PE ratio is right now around 11.
Wow.
Yeah, so compared to the S&P, it is fairly low.
Do you know the price to sales ratio?
I actually do not. I don't think that really matters that much because they're a defensive company. They'll always have that backlog coming in, and I think they have insane backlog. It's around 100 and
yeah. I just searched up
billion, or
their price to
160
sales
billion.
Their price to sales is 1.4. Sorry, I was just saying the price of sales is 1.4 for Lockheed Martin, which is quite interesting.
Wow. Okay. I mean, yeah, might be a bit high, but I don't know. I think just based on the P&E and just, defensive stocks as a whole, they've also been kind of lagging. I think that they could start to rise as well.
Going back to defensive stocks, I think defense and cybersecurity stocks for this decade would be a great add. I'm adding more stocks in Palantir and a new stock called Cognite, which was spun off from Variant, right? I think these stocks can grow very big this decade, and it's because of one reason, and that's China. The new war is not fought on land; it's fought in the internet. It's a cyber warfare now, and you see all these news headlines where China's interfering with our not China. I think Russia was the one that hacked recently. China is also hacking using platforms like Instagram and TikTok. So cybersecurity and defense stocks will be great. More towards cybersecurity stocks, because if we look at Palantir software, their customers aren't like NSA, CIA. They're not making their own in-house software because Palantir software is just light years better than what they can ever make and how much it would cost them to make that. So that's why I'm very bullish on Palantir, and I'm very bullish on cybersecurity stocks for this decade.
Yeah, definitely. I think you're looking into some of the Israeli cybersec stocks as well, right?
Yeah, Israel is one of the top countries that have companies that are, I think, like 25% of cybersecurity sales are from Israel. So when it comes to cybersecurity, Israel is at the top. They're also the top in terms of vaccinations. They've vaccinated more than half the population in their country. So they're on route to recover from coronavirus very fast. And there's a lot of capital inflow into Israel, a lot of investments. And since cybersecurity is one of their dominant industries, Cognite is one of the new stocks that I bought in. They just IPO'd a few weeks ago, so there hasn't been any big moves in the stock. It's stayed very flat, like Palantir, before it exploded. So I'm accumulating stocks of Cognite right now.
Yeah, I haven't looked into them, to be fair. But yes, I think CyberSec is one of the more advantageous stocks to go for. I think that wraps it up for us this week, don't you think?
Yep, that's all we have for you guys today.
Yeah, so make sure if you're watching on YouTube to like and subscribe and share it with your friends, or if you're watching on Spotify, just make sure to follow us for these weekly podcast updates, and we will see you guys next week.
All right, see you guys. Stay safe.